away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Bearcat Journal. As always, presented by our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Use that app to have your Galactic Fried Chicken delivered pretty much everywhere inside the 275 loop, or get down to Dayton, Kentucky, Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner. Tell them to pump it up, and you will save 15% off of your order. We're gonna have to come up with a new secret word, I think, Aaron. We're gonna have to get with Shane.
Yeah.
I think pump it up is
it's more than it's welcome.
It's been great for the length of this show. We've been doing this 6 days a week for over a year. I think it might just be different time to find a new secret word, a new code word.
I don't think we've been doing the Nightcap for a year yet.
We've been doing this YouTube channel for over a year. The Nightcap is close to a year. We've done a lot of this. We've done a lot of these.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these. But anyway, we don't have a great topic for tonight, but I did have a topic that hits close to home for me because I grew up. I was always a UC fan, but if there was anything that I was my biggest fandom as a child growing up was the Reds.
Yeah.
Mainly because during the summer, that's what me and my dad did. We went to Reds games. Like, that was, if I didn't have a sporting event and my dad didn't have to work, there was times he worked second shift, whatever. If we had free time, we went to Reds games.
Back at Old Riverfront.
The
AstroTurf, Crazy Marge shot.
I used to go down in the blue seats and get Marge's autograph. I've got a bunch of those somewhere just because it was the fun, there was always the line of kids and she had Shotzi there with her.
Shotzi, yeah.
But we were supposed to go, if the weather wasn't bad, we were supposed to go to the perfect game. It probably wouldn't have happened if the weather was not bad. Know how everything has to happen.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah, but it was one of those, it was a Friday night. We were going to go to the game. I talked about it with my dad today. And, the weather was crap and the game didn't start until 10 o'clock. So he decided, we're not going to. We used to do what, dads and their sons used to do back in those days. Go to the game, buy top six.
That was 91, right?
I think so, yeah. They were $3.
The year after the World Series.
They were $3.50 to get a ticket in the top six. So you'd spend $7 to get into the game, and then you would spend the rest of the game trying to get as close to the field
that was the
as
best
possible.
Game.
That was we had it down for a while. We got figured out after a while. We would get all the way down into the green, where remember the green and the blue used to connect midway down the first and third base lines. So we would get as far down as possible. And then when something would happen and everybody would stand up, we would jump over the barrier between the green and the blue seats to get down into the blue. Nice. And then just try to casually, because you couldn't, if you were going to try to run those.
No, the ushers took their jobs very seriously back then.
You couldn't get past those guys that worked the tunnel where they checked your ticket. Yeah. You couldn't get down that way unless you got really lucky. So the best way was when something happened, you could jump, just kind of hop over the railing from the blue to the green or the green to the blue, and then try to blend in and hope that they didn't catch you making the leap. Eventually they caught on to us and we couldn't do that anymore. But it worked for a while. But we were going to go that night, and it got the rain delayed, and we didn't go. And then I was home listening on the transistor radio to Marty and Joe as Tom Browning threw a perfect game. I gave my dad crap for it today. That we should have. I was 13, 14. We should have been there.
In 91, I was 7.
Yeah, see, that's. But anyhow, Tom Browning won a World Series, threw a perfect game. He's known as Mr. Perfect in this town. That's a hell of a moniker to have, like, follow around your post baseball career. You just get to walk around as the only guy in the history of the franchise to throw a perfect game. Unfortunately, he passed away today, and I don't know in terms of a UC connection.
62, right?
Yeah, 62 years old.
Years old.
Sad day. I hate it. Just because he was a guy that was so much a part of really the only championship team of my life in this town.
Yeah.
The 90 Reds are the only championship I've ever experienced. I skipped school the day of the parade. I think I've told this story. Have you heard this story?
I'm not sure.
So the day of the parade, we were going to the parade. Come hell or high water, me and my dad were going to the parade. One of my close family friends was the assistant principal at my middle school. And my dad wrote me a note that said, basically, Chad and I are going to the World Series parade. Please excuse him. And I took it up to the assistant principal, who's been a family friend my entire life. And she was like, Chad, I can't excuse you to go to the fucking parade. She didn't say that, the F word, but go back to the car, tell your dad to write a note that says you've got a doctor's appointment, and then you guys can go to the parade. And we went, and I held the World Series trophy, 13-year-old me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely didn't tell that story before.
Oh, okay. Well, that
was a new one for me.
Yeah, I got to touch and hold the World Series trophy when I was 13 years old, right on Fountain Square. It was pretty cool. But is there anybody that like kind of lived life as a Cincinnatian, like as a like the picture of him at Wrigley where he just like walked out of the stadium?
Which that's crazy.
Yeah, but because back then that wasn't part of, like, now it's part of Wrigley.
Yeah, but can you imagine a baseball player, a football player, anybody leaving the stadium nowadays
to go hang out and have a beer,
party with people, and then just come back? Like, I can't picture anyone doing that. Like, you'd catch so much hell if you were a football player. Like, say you got kicked out for targeting and you left and went to, like, if you're a Bengal and you left and went to Holy Grail to go watch with everybody else who's watching at Holy Grail.
Or if you're at Nippert and you just went to the student section. Like, you know, you just look in the student section at Nippert and there's just somebody in their uniform with their helmet on. It was like, hey, I'm not playing today, so I'm just going to go hang out.
You'd be kicked off the team.
Yeah, I'm going to go see what the student section's like today.
Suspended indefinitely.
Or like maybe what if somebody was like injured? Like they had a broken like pinky or something, like a broken thumb. And they
like when Kiner's finger exploded out of his glove.
Yeah. And he just took his shit off and went and sat in the student section for a game.
Yeah, I don't think that would go over well, especially with.
I don't think it would go over well at all. Same thing in basketball. Like, you had knee surgery. Like John Newman goes and sits in the student section for a game.
He would be shunned.
I don't know. Maybe John's got Wes's trust.
Yeah, but they want him on the bench to hype up his guys and that kind of thing. Like, I don't know.
He's in the student section, hyping up the student section.
I don't see it going well. I do not see that going well at all.
Well, look, the Browning thing didn't go well in the clubhouse at the time. That was not well received, that he had just walked out. And the picture, Mo said it's his favorite baseball picture ever today, of Tom Browning just sitting over with the bleacher creatures. They're the places behind the Wall and Wrigley partying. Is there anything you see related that like makes you think of Tom Browning? Because Tom Browning's one of a kind. What was your one thing? What was your one thing? Your one that you said?
I said like Yancey. I mean, him being a homebred guy, being a Cincinnati guy, and knowing how much like the crosstown shootout meant to Yancey Gates, him just being over Xavier and punching Kenny Freese in the face, whether you think it was a sucker punch or whether you think it was well deserved, either way, I mean, I think that showed like
he broke his face.
Yes,
literally, he broke his eye socket. Yeah,
but I think that just showed like what that rivalry meant, and I wonder if we've kind of gotten away from that rivalry mentality, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah, I'm not having that conversation. I'm not in the mood for that.
But I don't know, just kind of showing the personality, and like it or not, obviously it wasn't necessarily well received, but it was just something he felt he had to do.
So I've got two on-field court things that come to mind that maybe could rival a perfect game. One would be Gunnar Kiel getting knocked out against Memphis, Hayden Moore coming in and in essentially 2.5 quarters. It might have been 3, but like less than a full game, throwing for 500 plus yards.
Crazy.
And like, yeah, just having statistically he had like the best or the second best game passing in the history of the program and didn't start the game. He came in and was just throwing down, and that was a loaded wide receiver group. That was Chris Moore and Mikhail McKay and Johnny Holton, and
Chris Moore's still doing it in the NFL. Chris Moore,
right? Oh, we got to have Chris back soon. Chris was an awesome guest.
Mikhail McKay just got a new job this week as well. I saw him announce that he's a head coach somewhere.
Nice.
Saw that on Twitter this week.
But like that for me, like that's kind of like a quarterback perfect game, right? Like you come in and you just kick ass and make a name for yourself just like that because the starter got hurt. The other one for me, I know you'll like this one. Steve Logan outscoring Southern Miss by himself. That's just rare. Like that might be the number one thing that a Bearcat has ever done that's similar to a perfect game, because how many times in your life do you remember a story about a guy that scored more points than the other fucking team?
That doesn't make sense.
Right. Is that the closest thing to a perfect game that's happened in our lives?
Maybe. I mean, I guess you could argue if you had somebody who, I mean, this hasn't happened, but if you shot like perfect from the field, or like in basketball, like had a game where you went, say, like 12 of 12, 12 of 12, 7 of 7 from 3, maybe 5 of 5 from the free throw line. Or if you
I think you would need a significant number of shots to do that, because somebody that goes like 5 for 5 and they hit a cut like 2 for 2 from 3.
I think you'd have to have double digit shots.
Yeah, for sure. You'd have to be double digits in shots. But I'm just talking about on the magnitude, like how rare perfect games are in the history of baseball. Like perfect games and cycles, right? Like that's the things in baseball that are like super, super rare.
You'd have to have like a quadruple double, maybe.
That would be right up there. You don't hear of many quadruple doubles.
Certainly not in a 40-minute college game.
Yeah. The only one I ever like know of is Gary doing it in high school, where he had his senior year. He had a quadruple double at Clayton High School.
But yeah, I mean,
I think it's outscoring the other team.
That's
like
probably,
I beat you.
Yeah.
In a team sport, I beat you.
That's probably, yeah. I mean, that's essentially what a perfect game is.
Right. Like I went out there, and as long as we got Although it's weird, like if you go back in baseball history, there were a couple like perfect games that went to extra innings,
and
the guy lost because
Right.
they had to take him out, and the team lost. Like he threw 9 perfect innings and lost the game. I
think Cincinnati. I think the Reds had a no hitter that they lost.
Yeah.
A couple seasons ago, like maybe not this season, but maybe the season before.
It went into extra innings and they lost in extra innings. Yeah.
On walks.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's Logan. I think Steve Logan is the closest
to Tom Browning. Perfect
to
game.
Tom Browning. I didn't know where that was going to go, but that popped in my head as we were going. Like Logan outscoring Southern Miss. It's kind of a perfect game.
About as close as you can get.
In terms of rarity, I don't know anything that's happened that has been more rare in my lifetime following the Bearcats. All right, we got some Christmas shows coming up. We got a bunch of other stuff coming up this week. We've got a basketball game on Wednesday night and a lot to keep an eye on. Signing day is Wednesday as well. So stay tuned to BearcatJournal.com. This is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken.
See ya!